Daf Nun Vav Amud Beis, 5 lines from the top. We're in the middle of the discussion of trying to prove that Rav Yehuda does not hold to the principle of Breira. Gemara says, Ella Midatana Aya. Let us prove it from the following. What did Aya teach? She taught in the Brisa, the Tana Aya, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Ein Adam Masa Al Shnei Dvarim Kech. A person can't make it tonight, cannot make it tonight on two things simultaneously. We're dealing over here with the case of where a person is making a Ruvei Tchumim. A person can carry on Shabbos only within 2,000 amas from his place of Shvisa, either from the city limits or from the place where he's standing at the onset of Shabbos. He has 2,000 amas in each direction. If a person wishes to travel more than that, what he can do is make a Ruvei Tchumim. What he does is he takes some food and he puts it within 2,000 amas of his city, of the city outskirts, city limits, and then he has 2,000 amas from the place of his food. Now, in a case where a person is not sure where he wants to go on Shabbos, there's a Talmud Chacham that's coming, he's going to give a drasha, and he doesn't know where the Talmud Chacham, where he's going to be. So he doesn't know which area, which city, or which base medrash the Talmud Chacham is going to come to. So he wants to put make a tchum. So I said that even the Rabbi Yehuda said that you can make a tchumim in this case, but not for two Talmid Chacham simultaneously. Meaning that if there's two Talmid Chacham coming, and he's not sure which one he wants to go to, and he hasn't made a decision, he can't make two tchumim and say that, well, I'll decide tomorrow, and if I want to go to the one in, for instance, the east, I'll go to the east, and I want that tchum to take effect. If the west, I'll go to the west, and I'll want that tchum to take effect. No, he can't do that. Ella, he says rather, what he can say rather is that if the chacham can only go, there's only one chacham. If there's one, but he doesn't know where he's coming, so if the chacham comes to the east, I want the tchum that I put down in the east to take effect. Or alternatively, lamarav eruv lamarav. If it's to the marav, I want my eruv to be in the marav. Avulakan olakan loy. But if there's two, and one comes to one side, one to the other side, he cannot say, I'll decide tomorrow which eruv I want to take effect. And we asked, why do we say that he can't say in either direction? I'll choose tomorrow because ein breira, meaning you can't make a decision tomorrow. You can't make a decision on Shabbos and say, therefore, huvra davar l'mafreya. It's therefore determined retroactively that the eruv that I wanted was before Shabbos, because for an Erev, for Erev Tchumim to take effect, the Erev has to be done before Shabbos. So if you make a decision during Shabbos, how can the Erev take effect? The only way it would be able to take effect is by saying, Breira, saying that what I chose on Shabbos is really what I had in mind, L'mafreya, retroactively it shows that's what I had in mind on the onset of Shabbos, before Shabbos came in. But Rabbi Yehuda doesn't hold a Breira. So we see from here, Rabbi Yehuda doesn't hold a breira. So therefore, lekan, if there's two Talmidei Chachamim, it doesn't work, it doesn't take effect because of ein breira. Well, if that's the case, then lemizrach ulamarav nami ein breira. What's the difference? Even if there's one Chacham, and it's either to the mizrach or to the marav, also ein breira. Meaning, what we're assuming now is that the Chacham has not yet come. The Chacham hasn't come to the direction. We don't know, the person making the Erev doesn't know where he's coming, and therefore he says that wherever the Chacham will decide to come on Shabbos, I want my Erev to take effect. So if the Chacham comes and decides to come to the east, I want the Erev that I put down to the east take effect. If it's to the west, to the west. So it's also dependent on Breira. What's the difference? It still would be dependent on Breira. He's still saying that wherever the Chacham comes, wherever he decides to come tomorrow, I want my Erev to be. So for instance, if this is the city limit, So he wants to be able to go with up to 4,000 amas in one direction. So he puts an Erev to one direction, and he puts an Erev to the other direction. So therefore he says as follows. Now this Erev is within 2,000 amas of the city, and this Erev is within 2,000 amas of the city. He wants to be able to go up to 4,000. The Chacham might come here, the Chacham might come here. Now we're assuming that the Chacham has not yet arrived at his destination on which Shabbos came, and he hasn't even decided which area he's going to. Now we have to further caveat is that this direction and this direction have to be within 4,000 have to be within 2,000 each of where the Chacham is. Meaning, if the Chacham is, let's say, here, he has to be able to, on the onset of Shabbos, be within 2,000 amas of this direction and 2,000 amas of this direction. So he has to be able, from where he is when Shabbos comes in, to go to either direction. Well, if the Chacham hasn't decided where he's going, he can go either here or here. What does it help that he's only one Chacham, and the person in the city puts the Erev here and an Erev here, and he says, if the Chacham comes here, I want my Erev here to take effect so I can go here. Or if he goes here, if he decides to go here, I want my Erev that I put here to take effect that I can go here. Well, in any event, it's still dependent on Breira. So what's the difference if it's one Chacham or two? The Amar Rabbi Yochanan explains it, Keshekvar Bal Chacham. Now, we're not dealing with a case where the Chacham didn't come. The Chacham already came. And it's not a question of making a decision on Shabbos and therefore applying Breira and saying Huvra Dover Lemafreya. We're not making the decision on Shabbos. The decision was made before Shabbos. The Chacham came to one of the two locations. The person placing the Erev, however, doesn't know which. So it's not a question of Breira. He puts down two Erevs. And he says, wherever the Chacham is, I don't know where he is, but wherever he is, if he is in this location, I want the Erev here to take effect, so I can go here. If it's here, then I want this one to take effect. It's not Breira, it's just a Tanai, it's a condition. Wherever it is that the Chacham happens to be, on the onset of Shabbos, that's where I want my Erev to be. So it's not a question of making a decision later and saying, therefore, and Huvra Dover L'Marfreya, that this is the one that I had in mind. No, it's not Breira. It's, what we're saying is that it's, the decision is that to wherever the Chacham is, that's the decision is. That decision is, that's what the decision is, and that's made before Shabbos. It's just that he doesn't happen to know yet. He will know later on. This is not Breira, this is the Tanai. It's not Breira. The decision is not being made later, and therefore applying retroactively and saying that we consider it like that was his decision even from beforehand. He's making a decision, wherever the Chacham is, that's my Erev. He happens not to know where that is yet, but the decision has been made. He'll find out tomorrow, and that's where he will be able to go. So, Al Kopan, what do we see from here? We see over here that Rabbi Yehuda does not hold a Breira. So, therefore, if that's the case, now Bahashta, the Gemara says, Damrin Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yehuda ain't Breira, that he says there's no Breira. Siva Islam, but he does hold that Siva writing is valid to safeguard against confusion. Now, if that's the case, that writing is valid, so therefore, Yom Kippurim Navi Beitrei v'Nechtav Alayu. Now, Rabbi Yehuda does not hold a Breira, but he does hold that there were different shofars, different pushkas in the base of Mikdash. They were labeled, so he holds Siva. So he doesn't hold a Breira, and that's why there was no shofar for the Kinei Chayva, because if there was one of the persons who donated died, there would be a mixture of the money of the person who died, and Chatz Shmeis Ba'ala would have to go to Yam HaMelech, and therefore all the money would be also. So Ksiva is not relevant to that case, but the other shofars, you could label them. So if that's the case, and labeling is a safeguard, so for the other pushkas, they label them and they were not afraid of confusion. So Yom Kippur, why don't you have two golden stands, label them that this is the golden stand for the par, this is the golden stand for the sawyer, and therefore there won't be any confusion, and the Kohen Gadol will put the one kli shoris that has the dam of the par, he has it on one stand, and he'll put the other one of the soyer on the other stand and label them so they won't be confused. The Gemara answers, Mishum Chulsha, the Kohen Gadol of a daita. Enechanami, generally speaking, that labeling would be a safeguard, generally speaking. But over here on Yom Kippur, the Kohen Gadol has to do all the avoid himself, and he's fasting. So he has all this chulsha, he has all this weakness. Here, we're concerned that he won't pay attention to the labeling and he'll confuse it. Because if you're not going to say that this is the reason that we have to take an extra precaution, but like Ksivanami, even if you don't label it, why should we be concerned that the Kohen Gadol will interchange them and get confused? It should be pretty obvious which is the blood of the soyer and dam of the par. Hai nafish v'hai zuter. The blood, the par, is much bigger than the goat, so the blood that he collects in the klishores, then when he's makabel the dam, the quantity of the blood is much more than it is for the goat, so it should be obvious this is the dam of the par, and this kli has the dam of the par, and this kli has the dam of the soyer. So why would it be why would be concerned that he get confused? Hai nafish v'hai zuter. This is more, and this is less. Well, perhaps just say, well, yeah, but he didn't collect all the dam of the par, so the quantities are the same. Can't be. V'amar Rav Yehuda, HaSheichet Tzar Shekabel has called dam shel par. He shechs the par. He has to be makabel. He has to receive all of the blood of the par of the bull. Shenemar es kol dam hapar yishbach l'yisod mizbach ha'olam. He has to pour all of the blood he pours on the side of the Be'ach oil, all of the blood, which means he has to be makabel all of the blood. Perhaps he'll say, yes, he was makabel all of the blood, but some of it spilled out. And therefore, as it stands, you'll have a situation where the quantities of the par and the soyer are the same. And maybe in that scenario, it's to account for that type of scenario that we're concerned that he might get confused. No, still, there shouldn't be a concern. High fever, high sumac. The blood, there's different shades of the red of the blood. The blood of the goat is lighter. It's not as deep red as of the par. So the par is sumac is a deeper, brighter red. So he should be clear to him which is which. So why is Rabbi Yehuda concerned? It must be because of the weakness of the Kohen Gadol. He'll get confused. Normally he wouldn't, but because he's weak because of the fasting and all the avodah that he has to do, therefore he will not pay attention or not be aware. So here too, as far as labeling won't help it, because we're afraid that he won't pay attention to it or be too preoccupied due to his weakness and the work that he has to do, and therefore he will get confused and interchange them. While the Rabbanan, however, are not concerned about that. How the Nachas coming to Rava? There was a shliach tzibur that said that the shliach tzibur for the Tfilas Musaf on Yom Kippur, and he said, Omar, when he came to recite the Seder HaAvodah, he said, Omar Yotzav v'hinicha al kan sheni shebehecha. He said, when the Kohen Gadol, he said, he went out, and he put it on the second stand that's in the heichal. Then it says, he said, Notal dam par, v'hiniach dam soyer. He said, he takes the dam of the par and puts down the blood of the soyer, of the goat. Now, according to Rav Yehuda, there's only one stand. So in order to put the dam of the soyer on the stand, you have to first take the dam of the par, the kli from the dam of the par off the stand, and then you can put the other one on that stand. According to Rabbanan, there were two. Now, he started off saying, Yotz v'nicha al kan sheni shebe'echal, which seems to be going according to the Rabbanan that there were two stands. Then he said, he continued, Notal dam par v'niach dam asor. He removed the dam of the par and in its place put the dam of the sor, which indicates that there's only one There's one stand. So Chada Karabanim Relay, Chada Karabanim, Chada Karabihuda. He said you're saying starting off one part of it, you're saying like the Rabbana, the other segment is like Rabbi Yehuda. So rather, Ema Hiniach Damasoyer Renotol Damapar. Rather say that Hiniach Damasoyer, he puts down the blood of the soyer on the second stand, on the second gold stand, and then Notol Damapar he takes the Damapar from the first stand. To be consistent, and it's going according to the Rabbanan. The Mishnah continues and says after he does the hazois, the sprinkling in the Kodesh Kadoshim, he comes to the Heichal and he does the sprinklings in the Heichal. And he sprinkles it on the pareches keneged aron, towards the aron, on the opposite, the aron from the outside, Ton Rabbanan, oil moed. It says he does so in the oil moed. He does the hazos similarly in the oil moed. Ma Talmud loymar. What is it coming to teach us with this? What does it have to teach us? What does it teach us when it says v'chein yaseh? The pasuk says v'chipra l'kodesh mitumas b'nei Yisrael pishem l'chol chatoisam. So that's the way Rabbi Yochanan explains it. The v'chein yaseh. The v'chein yaseh is extra. It doesn't have to say v'chein yaseh lo'el moed sheichan itam b'sayich tumosam. Therefore, why does it say v'chein yaseh? So ma Talmud loymar. So to teach you kishem shemaza lifnaim lifnim kach maza behechel. Just like he does the hazos in the Kodesh Kadoshim, he does it in the hechel. Ma lifnaim lifnim achas lamala v'sheva lamata midam apar. Just like in the Kodesh Kadoshim, it's one above and seven below from the dam of the par kach maza behechel. So too in the hechel. Ukashem shelifnai v'lefim achas lamala v'sheva lamata b'dam hasoyer, and he does similarly from the dam of the soyer kach maza behechel. So too he does it in the heichal. Hashoychen itam b'soich tumos. The pasuk says that he's mechaper l'kodesh mitumas b'nei Yisrael b'shem l'chol chatoizim v'chein yaseh oil moed hashoychen itam b'soich tumosim, that dwells with them in their tumah. Amalei Hawad Saduki Rabbi Chanina, certain Saduki said to Rabbi Chanina, Hashta Boret Meimat. Now that you're in Goldus, now you're tummy. Because as the pasuk says, Dichsiv Tumosa Bishuleho. The pasuk says her tumah is Bishuleho, is at the hem of her garment, meaning it's visible, and it's compared to a nida. It's like that it has dam on her garment. So, meaning you're tummy and the Shekhinah has left you, the Rebbeinu Shalom has forsaken you. Omer Lei, Rabbi Chanina said to him, he said, no. Ta chazi maksi bahu. See what is written in the pasuk, what the Torah says about us. Hasheichem itam b'seich tumasa. That the Torah is sheichem itam, he dwells with us in their tumah, in the midst of their tumah. Meaning, afilu b'zman shem tzameim, even when they're tamei, Shekhinah shruya b'neihem. The Shekhinah is still present, even when they're tamei. And therefore, just because we're in Golas, and even though we're compared to Tumah V'nida, the Rebbeinu Shalom is Sheichem with us b'seich Tumah. So the Mashal explains, he says, meaning it's an analogy to someone who is Tamei Nida. So just like in a husband and wife, if the woman is Tamei Nida, they cannot have relations, but they're still married. So it's here too, even though we're in Golas, and even though we don't have that closeness, that intimacy that we had in the Beis HaMikdash with Hashras Shekhinah, but the marriage is still intact. It's considered to be the marriage during the time of Tumah, where there is no intimacy in that regard, but the marriage is still intact.